chime on the right side of the reaper in front, and the left of the man that followed him, each making farther sweep and inroad into the golden breadth and depth, each casting leftwards his rich clearance on his foregoer's double track. So like half a wedge of wildfowl, to and fro, we swept the field, and when to either hedge we came, sickles wanted wetting, and throats required moisturing, and backs were in need of easing, and every man had much to say, and woman wanted praising. Then all returned to the other end with reaping hooks beneath our arms, and dogs left to mind jackets. But now, will you believe me well, or will you only laugh at me? For even in a world of wheat, when deep among the varnished crispness of the jointed stalks, and below the feather yielding of the graceful heads, even as I gripped the swathes and swept the sickle around them, even as I flung them by to rest on brother stubble, through the whirling yellow world, and eagerness of reaping, came the vision of my love, as with downcast eyes she wondered at my power of passion. And then the sweet remembrance glowed brighter than the sun through wheat, through my very depth of heart, of how she raised those beaming eyes, and ripened in my breast rich hope. Even now I could descry, like high waves in the distance, the rounded heads and folded shadows of the wood of Bagworthy. Perhaps she was walking in the valley, and softly gazing up at them. Oh, to be a bird just there! I could see a bright mist hanging just above the Doone glen. Perhaps it was shedding its drizzle upon her. Oh, to be a drop of rain! The very breeze which bowed the harvest to my bosom gently, might have come direct from Lorna, with her sweet voice laden. All the flaws of air that wandered where they will around her, fan her bright cheek, play with lashes, even revel in her hair, and reveal her beauties. Man is but a breath, we know. Would I were such breath as that! But confound it, I pondered, with delicious dreams suspended, with my right arm hanging frustrate, and the giant sickle drooped, with my left arm bowed for clasping something more germane than wheat, and my eyes not minding business, but intent on distant woods. Confound it, what are the men about, and why am I left vapouring? They have taken advantage of me, the rogues. They are gone to the hedge for the cider jars. They have had up the sled of bread and meat, quite softly over the stubble, and if I can believe my eyes, so dazed with Lorna's image, they are sitting down to an excellent dinner before the church clock has gone 11. "John Fry, you big villain!" I cried, with John hanging up in the air by the scruff of his neckcloth, but holding still by his knife and fork, and a goose leg in between his lips. "John Fry, what mean you by this, sir?" "Let me down, or I can't tell 'ee," John answered with some difficulty. So I let him come down, and I must confess that he had reason on his side. "Plaise your worship," John called me so, ever since I returned from London, firmly believing that the King had made me a magistrate at least, though I was to keep it secret. "Azid as how your worship were took to thinking of King's business in the middle of White Rig, and so as thee lat un come to a zale, us had better say time, by taking a dinner, and here us be, praise your worship, and hops no offence with thick iron spoonful of vile tatties. I was glad enough to accept the ladle full of fried potatoes, and to make the best of things, which is generally done by letting men have their own way. Therefore I managed to dine with them, although it was so early. For according to all that I can find in a long life and a varied one, 12 o'clock is the real time for a man to have his dinner. Then the sun is at his noon, calling halt to look around, and then the plants and leaves are turning, each with a little leisure time before the work of the afternoon. Then is the balance of east and west, and then the right and left side of a man are in due proportion, and contribute fairly with harmonious fluids. And the health of this mode of life, and its reclaiming virtue are well set forth in our ancient rhyme. Sunrise, breakfast; sun high, dinner; sundown, sup; makes a saint of a sinner. Whish! the wheat falls. Whirl again. Ye have had good dinners. Give your master and mistress plenty to supply another. And in truth we did reap well and fairly, through the whole of that afternoon, I not only keeping lead, but keeping the men up to it. We got through a matter of 10 acres, ere the sun between the shocks broke his light on wheaten plums, then hung his red cloak on the clouds, and fell into grey slumber. Seeing this, we wiped our sickles, and our breasts and foreheads, and soon were on the homeward road, looking forward to good supper. Of course all the reapers came at night to the harvest supper, and Parson Bowden to say the grace, as well as to help to call for us, and some help was needed there, I can well assure you, for the reapers had brave appetites, and most of their wives having babies were forced to eat as a duty. Neither failed they of this duty. Cut and come again was the order of the evening, as it had been of the day, and I had no time to ask questions, but help meat and ladle gravy. All the while our darling Annie, with her sleeves tucked up, and her comely figure panting, was running about with a bucket of tatties mashed with lard and cabbage. Even Lizzie had left her books, and was serving out beer and cider, while mother helped plum pudding largely on pewter plates with the mutton. And all the time Betty Muxworthy was grunting in and out everywhere, not having space to scold even, but changing the dishes, serving the meat, poking the fire, and cooking more. But John Fry would not stir a peg, except with his knife and fork, having all the airs of a visitor, and his wife to keep him eating, till I thought there would be no end of it. Then, having eaten all they could, they prepared themselves with one accord for the business now of drinking. But first they lifted the neck of corn, dressed with ribbons gaily, and set it upon the mantelpiece, each man with his horn of froth, and then they sang a song about it, every one shouting in the chorus louder than a harvest thunderstorm. Some were in the middle of one verse, and some at the end of the next one. Yet somehow all managed to get together in the mighty roar of the burden. And if any farmer up the country would like to know Exmoor harvest song as sung in my time, and will be sung long after I am gone at home, lo, here I set it down for him, omitting only the dialect, which perchance might puzzle him. Exmoor harvest song. The corn, oh the corn!